Okay, here we go. So we'll begin with this question because it touches upon Hanukkah a little bit. And since tomorrow night is Hanukkah, so I think it's very apropos. So question number one for this evening. Dear Rabbi, I noticed that lighting candles is a big part of Judaism. We light candles every Friday for Shabbat. We light candles on every festival. And Hanukkah is all about candles. What is the connection between candles and Judaism? Okay, so it's a great question indeed. We do light candles all the time. Those examples that you brought are correct. There are more examples to bring. I will bring the example of a yard site. When someone commemorates the passing of a loved one, then we light a candle. And there are many other instances. But why do we light candles so much? And that is because, in essence, the candle really represents each and every one of us. We've mentioned this verse before. King Solomon in the book of Proverbs says that the soul of man is the candle of God. Ner Hashem nishmat adam. And there is so much to learn about the soul if we are to contemplate the candle. And that's more or less what we do on Hanukkah. On Hanukkah, we sit around the Hanukkah candles. Yes, we light the candles to commemorate the miracle of the olive oil that lasted 8 days instead of just 1 day. Olive oil of the menorah as they rededicated the temple in the year 164 BCE. But we also sit around the candles in order to learn from the candles, because we can learn a lot about the soul by just looking and again, learning from those candles. Some examples are that, for example, the very raison d'etre of a candle, the very essence of a candle is to shine. Just as the soul's very raison d'etre is to shine, to immerse ourselves in all sorts of other things, from materialistic pleasures to whatever else it may be, is really not the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to shine, is to give, is to illuminate, is to make this world a better place, to use that cliche. So that's one thing we can learn from candles. Another thing we can learn from candles is that candles always strive to go heavenward. If you look at a candle, the flame of a candle carefully wants to detach itself from the wax, just as the soul always strives to go heavenward, always tries to climb, to go higher and higher. What we did yesterday is not enough for today. Today we have to do even more. You always have to strive even more. Another thing we can learn from candles is that they are other-oriented, not self-oriented. I think part of the part of the reason people maybe are so depressed sometimes is because they are so self-preoccupied. What do I need? What do I want? What is it about me that bothers me? And it's all about me and me and me and me. If we were to learn from the candle and be other-oriented and really transform the question of what I need into the question of what am I needed for, as the candle is asking, really, then I think we'd be a little more happy. It's another thing we can learn from a candle. There's so many things, again, that we can learn from a candle. And that's, again, it's rooted in the idea that the soul is like the candle. And therefore, we can learn a lot about our soul and its desires and its mission from the candle itself. And that also explains why we light a candle, to use that example, right? Why we light a candle when there's a yard site, the day of the passing of someone that we love. And that's because, again, that candle represents that person's soul, just like that verse that we quoted before. Okay, so that's to answer that question. And of course, we can talk more and more about this, but I want to get to the other question. So question number 2. Could you please teach us about the yeshiva of Shem and Ever? I see it referred to recently in some of my readings, but I'm unclear as to how it was established, where it was located, what was actually being taught, since the Torah was given so much later. Har Sinai, Mount Sinai, no actually studied there. So you're right. There is, there is this yeshiva, or this house of study, that is found in many texts that we speak about, and that existed from the times of Shem and ever until much, much later on. So indeed, in Israel, in a place called Beersheba, in the south of Israel, the son of Noah, whose name was Shem, established a yeshiva, a house of study for anyone that was open to everyone, for anyone to come and study and connect to God's teachings. We'll explain exactly what during his times. That yeshiva continued to exist into the next generation, into the generation after that also. His grandson Ever is the one that continued to teach after Shem. That's why it's called the yeshiva of Shem and Ever. Ever was the grandson of Shem. Shem again was the son of Noah. Now that family, that lineage is the lineage also that received the blessing of V'yishkon be'olei Shem, Yaft Elohim leyefet v'yishkon be'olei Shem, the blessing that was given by Noah to his children, that God will dwell in the lineage of Shem. And of course, God dwells in the house of study, in the Beit Midrash, or in a yeshiva, quote unquote. And therefore, that blessing is found again in this lineage of Shem and his grandson Ever. And then it continued on and on and on. The text, the Midrash teaches us that Abraham learned in this yeshiva, especially towards the end of his life. We also learn the text quote that when God commanded Abraham to take his son Isaac to be binded on the altar and then sacrificed, he didn't want to share the news with Sarah, his wife, right, the mother of Isaac, would sadden her too deeply. So what did he tell her? He told her, I'm taking Isaac to the yeshiva of Shem. He's going to go and study there. Now, it wasn't a lie, because after the binding of Isaac, that's where Isaac really ended up. He went to study there. So we see that Isaac studied there, according to the Midrash. Jacob studied there, before he had to run away to his uncle's home, but he studied there. So it's a yeshiva that existed for quite a long time, and I believe until the Jews finally moved to Egypt when Jacob wanted to reunite with his son Joseph, and then the Jewish family or the Jewish nation was established there. So that's where the yeshiva was, and those are the times in which it existed. What they studied there, based on this question too, that's a good question. So it goes back to the question really of when was the Torah actually revealed to the world? We all know that the Torah was given officially to the Jewish people on Mount Sinai some 3,300 years ago, a little more than that. But the Torah may have been revealed already, or at least some parts of the Torah may have been revealed already to Adam and Eve, certainly to Noah. We know that Noah received the 7 Noahide laws, which are a part of the Torah. So that was already in the times of Shem. So those 7 Noahide laws certainly existed. It could be that some parts of the Torah also existed in the times of Adam. They weren't officially made public, or they weren't officially given to a certain nation until much later on, until Mount Sinai. But maybe the Torah existed already from the beginning of times, which is the opinion of the Talmud, that much of the Torah already existed. And that our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, studied that Torah. Did they study the stories of the Torah? Probably not, but the commandments of the Torah were already given. And they studied that. And we know from the Midrash that our forefathers also adhered to some of these commandments that only became famous much later on with the giving of the Torah Mount Sinai. So it could very well be that they studied that. Now, even if we don't agree with that idea that the Torah existed then, and that that's what they studied, the 7 Noahide laws could last generations, because if you know the Talmudic way of studying or the Jewish way of studying, you can ask question upon question upon question on any law, and those questions can last a lifetime. And then you go to the second law, and that lasts another lifetime. So you have at least 7 generations there of studying. But I do believe what the Talmud states, that a lot of the Torah already existed then, and that could very well be what they studied in the house of Shem and Ever. It's called again the Yeshiva of Shem and Ever because it was established by Shem, and then the baton was passed down to his grandson Ever. Okay. Next question. All right, dear Rabbi, there's something that I'm a little bit uncomfortable about. We always talk about the Jewish future, Jewish continuity, Jews marrying Jews, having Jewish children. What about the rest of humanity? Why do we have to divide between people? Can't we speak of humans rather than Jews? So it's a good question. I would say, there's two ways to answer this question. One way is to say, you're right, but why limit ourselves to humans? Let's speak about animals. Let's speak about insects. Let's speak about, we can go on and on. Let's speak about the mundane. Let's speak about Earth. Let's speak about the planets. Let's speak about, we can go on and on and on. But at one point, in order to teach something, we can't teach everything. And as Jews, a point of entry into that something is Judaism. Once we've mastered that something, then we can go on to the next, and then to the next, and then to the next. But if we start everywhere, then we'll be nowhere. So we start a default is Judaism, simply because that's our identity. And that's what we speak about. And I believe that we have to fully understand our mission as Jews in order to then to understand how that mission applies to the world. And then we can speak about the world, and then we can speak again about the planets and the galaxies and so on and so forth. And that's one way of looking at things. Another way of looking at, of answering this question is to quote Rabbi Steinsaltz, that Rabbi Steinsaltz told me the story multiple times, and each time he told me the story, it was always with great emotion and even some tears in his eyes. But that he remembers being invited to some city, and I forget the name of the city, but a very far away city in Siberia. And it was such an honor of having Rabbi Steinsaltz hosted in that city that the governor of the city or the mayor of the city came to greet him. And he asked Rabbi Steinsaltz a simple question: why? It's such an honor to have you here, all the way from Israel, and you're such a giant. And what did you come to do? And Rabbi Steinsaltz responded, I came to visit family. Now, he didn't have family there, biological family, but he was referring to the Jewish people, that he came to visit his own brothers and sisters. And even though they were so distant, living far, far away in Siberia, he felt this special connection to them, a familial connection to them, because really, indeed, the Jewish people are family. So very often when we speak about Jews and Jewish continuity and Jewish children, and we speak about loving Jews and so on and so forth, we're not excluding others. But what we are doing really is having a family conversation. Just like I am connected to my own family unit in ways that I'll never be connected to strangers, so too, and I speak about them, so too, we feel this deep connection, and we relate to it, and we try and develop it, and we try to enhance it and deepen it, so that the family bond can indeed be as strong as it can be. So when we have conversations as Jews about Jews, we're simply having a family conversation, a family meeting. And that's another way to look at it. And I will add one more thing, and I think this connects to the bigger idea. And that is that maybe it's connected to answer number one, but that is, and I find this a lot, especially with millennials, because we live in what a sociologist called it, the age of distraction. We're distracted all the time. You don't have to live really in the world to know this, but we're bombarded by so many distractions. Just, once upon a time, we don't have those cell phones. We don't have those TV ads that jumped at us every second trying to sell us another product. We don't have the click on the TV. I think that's where it began. You can jump from channel to channel. Oh yeah, it is one channel to look. So you weren't distracted as much. Today, the more society progresses, the more distractions are increased. And with those distractions come a lot, of course, of instabilities, of inability really to truly connect not just to others, but most importantly to who we truly are, because we're constantly looking on the outside. And what that eventually creates is not just insecurity and a complete lack of knowledge regarding our own identity, or lack of self-knowledge, self-esteem, but what this creates also is a lack of values. Because without that identity, we really can't know what values come to bolster that identity, and therefore the value is also lost. So when we speak to Jews about Jews, what we are actually doing is saying to them, I know you live in this age of distraction, but if you want to be a contributing factor in society, if you want to have a life of meaning and of healthy esteem, then you have to know who you are. And for you to know who you are, you first and foremost have to learn about Judaism, learn about your roots, learn about your identity. And once you can really connect to who you are, in spite of the distractions that may bombard you, then you'll also be able to be that true light unto the nations. That's really the I think that the key of it all. Jews who don't know who they are, not only will not be able to pass on the baton to their children, but they'll also be, I think, in a way, harming their mission in life to be that light unto the nation, that Jewish light unto the nations, because they won't know what that Jewish light really is about. So that's to answer this question. Okay, and we can continue on and on and on. All right, next question.
Rabbi?
Yes.
Can I just share something about that? At least it triggered, it's the very short story.
Sure.
But the very, very first time I ever went to Paris, France, I was given a guide, and the guide happened to be, his name is Philip Eichhorn, and he's Hungarian. I didn't know at the time, I didn't know anything. I don't speak French, whatever. Anyway, it winds up he's Jewish. He's Hungarian, Hungarian Jew, but he's from Paris. And he takes me to a little restaurant called Yori's. It's a Hungarian little tiny in the cellar. So we go down, and it's a little cellar, and it's named Yori. And the man who owned Yuri, he yells to Philippe, he knows him. He says, sein Mädel, am I his girl?
Right.
And I understand Yiddish. I don't learning more Hebrew, but I don't understand, but I understand Yiddish. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, I started a conversation with him in Yiddish. And he was so shocked. So here I am in Paris in the cellar, speaking Yiddish to this Hungarian French Jew. And then there were other people there from Russia, from Greece, and 2 other countries. It was a very small place. All of us began speaking Yiddish together. Wow. And singing Jewish songs. This is a true story. And it was such a united evening and which brought us together. And we all wound up sharing stories, dancing and laughing and singing together.
Right. No, that's beautiful. That's really, really beautiful. Look, I don't know if this is connected or not, but I forget who said this, but forget who said this, but there is a wise saying that says that defines love. Question is, of course, what is love? And this wise saying, or this wise person, defined love as connecting to the song in the heart of the other, to the point that when that other forgets his song, you can sing it to him again and remind him of it. Now, that's love. Now, in a way, I think that with the assimilation of Judaism, we not only do we, should we speak about Judaism and about Jewish identity, I think if we truly love Jews, we have to speak about Judaism, Jewish identity. In many ways, this song of Judaism has been forgotten from the hearts of people. And if we truly love Jews, as you're describing, Joyce, then we ought to remind Jews of that song, because it's a song that is theirs. It's again, Morasha Keilat Yaakov, it's their inheritance, as the Torah itself tells us. It's not just ours. And I can tell you as a rabbi that one of the greatest joys I have is to see the sparkle in the eyes of people when their Jewishness comes back to life, when the soul is revived, whether it's through a song, a Yiddish, an old song, a Yiddish mama song, whether it's through some type of food that reminds them of the grandparents, whether it's gefilte fish or schug, or better, whether it's through a Jewish value, a Jewish teaching, something deeper than just food. To me, that is bringing back that song, reviving it, and ensuring that they are reminded of the song that they may have forgotten. Because I will tell you this, that it's another thing I experienced as a rabbi, that when people are near death, I think what every person at that stage in their life has in common is that they almost are broken or are terribly in pain for not having lived the life that they were given, for not having lived or actualized the mission that they were charged with. And I'm talking about the Jewish mission. I can't tell you how many times people have told me, look, I wish I was more Jewish, quoting almost word for word, even though I don't believe you can be more Jewish, because we're all equally Jewish just by having a soul. But what they mean, of course, is more engaged in their Judaism. And that's because, again, it's a part of who you are. And if you don't actualize a part of who you are, that means a part of who you are is missing. That song is missing. And therefore, yes, we speak and emphasize Judaism in order to simply love. Because love, again, is reminding people of the song that they may have forgotten.
Rabbi, last night, speaking of Jewish, last night they had the National Yiddish Theater. There was an hour and a half Zoom. Itzhak Perlman was on. It was like 10,000 people, went in. They were singing Yiddish songs. I was in tears half of the time. And I'll tell you, if you really want to feel Jewish, the songs, and it was the most amazing Zoom I've ever watched. And it was the National Yiddish Theater. And if you want to Google it, I have the website and all that. But if you really want to feel Jewish, it was such an amazing show. It was like I was like home with my parents.
Right. Okay, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So anyway, just I thought.
No, that's thank you for mentioning it. But I'm going to add to that. That feelings come and go. I'm not a big fan of it in general. So if you want to feel Jewish, absolutely go and Google that. But if you want to do Jewish, not Jewish, and that doing Jewish will last longer than feeling, and you don't even have to Google. Do a mitzvah now. Whether it's saying the Shema, the bedtime Shema that we're about to say, or whether it's giving tzedakah, whether it's whatever it may be. Again, deeds are better than feelings, are more lasting than feelings. So I would encourage you to do that. Yes, you can go and Google the Yiddish theater too, but I would encourage you to do that also to actualize that Jewish soul. Okay.
I do all of it.
All of it. Very good. Excellent. The whole package. Okay. Next question. So, dear Rabbi, my life has come to a standstill. I'm bored at work and my relationship is going nowhere. I think I need a change of scenery. I'm thinking of moving to a different city or maybe changing my career. What do you what I think is that if you move to a different city, based on what you're saying, you'll still be in the same place. And what I mean by that is that often, and I don't know, I'd like to learn more about your exact situation, but often we think that a quick fix from the outside will change that which is lacking on the inside. But really, the only way we can change or fill the void that we are feeling on the inside is by doing something from the inside, because it's coming from the inside. Something from the outside might satisfy this for a day or a week, but no longer than that. I know that, and by the way, it's interesting. It's one of the lessons we learned from the Festival of Hanukkah. I'm going to get back to that. But I think that going back to the very soul and to the candle that we are, if you look at a candle, okay, that's another powerful lesson. A candle is never satisfied. The candle is always moving. It's always shaking. It always wants to, again, divorce itself from that wax. It wants to erupt and go heavenward. It has that ongoing movement, that restlessness to it. And that is because the soul is wired in the same way. The soul also is always restless. So it's no wonder to me that people feel that way, that they feel that they're bored at work and that they need a change, because their soul wants something more than what they already have. Unfortunately, the soul is not satisfied by physical changes, because physical changes maybe can satisfy the physical body, but it won't satisfy the spiritual soul. They speak a different language. So the only way to satisfy the soul, in a way to bring some rest to that restlessness, and again, it's temporary because the soul will always want to grow and grow, is to do something good for the soul, like a mitzvah, or to attend to the soul by meditating, by praying, or to attend to the soul by helping others, by assisting people. So attend to the soul by saying to the soul, you know what? Yes, I'm paying attention to you. Let me listen. What do you need? What's my calling today? What does life want from me? Not just what I want from life. And the more we attend to the soul, the more we feel satisfied on the inside. I think there's nothing more fulfilling than the actualization of our purpose. Now, it doesn't mean that the soul will be quiet forever. That only happens at death. But it will be satisfied for a little bit, and then tomorrow it will want some more. So you'll have to satisfy it tomorrow. And then again, the day after, you'll have to satisfy it even more. And it will be quiet on that day. And we learn that also from the festival of Hanukkah. It's interesting because the first night we light one candle. The second night we light two candles, almost sharing this message that what we did for our soul today, for that light within, from that flame, for that candle of God within, what we did for it today is not going to be enough tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have to add more. And then it's going to be happy. But then on the third day, we're going to have to add a third candle. That's what we really learn from the festival of Hanukkah. So I do believe that, again, these feelings of boredom and of wanting change very often come from within. And the only way to cure or even what cure is not the right word. The only way to satisfy maybe those feelings is to listen to what your soul wants, not what your body wants. Because you might move to a new city, and I know of people like that. They moved to different cities, they've changed their careers, everything that you write here they did, they changed the scenery and so on. And yes, it helped them for a week, for a month, for 2 months, but then they were back at the very spot they were in before they had moved. And then they asked themselves, really, was this change worth it? The problem was that they didn't listen to the soul. And if we listen to the soul, then you will find out that the soul really wants something else. Not a change of scenery, not a change of location, but rather maybe just simply to do more good, to fulfill our purpose in a more effective way. And I think that's the best way really to attend to those feelings. Okay, those are the written questions, the emails I received. And I have one more question here, and then I'll open this up to everybody. But the question I received here privately is as follows. This COVID and times we are living are making family problems, couples separating, kids with no learning, no motivation, depression, etc. What Jewish book or where can we read something in order to learn and release our minds? So I'm going to give you the Jewish answer, and then I'll give you maybe the not so Jewish answer. The Jewish answer is set times to study Torah. And I learned this from King David himself, where it says, Torah Hashem temimah meshivat nafesh. Quoting from Tehillim, I think 19, that the Torah has a power to soothe the soul. Torah Hashem temimah meshivat nafesh. It soothes the soul. I think when we study Torah, it connects us to God. It connects us to that which is greater than us. It therefore elevates us. And that connection with divinity, with God himself, creates wonders. It soothes the soul. It releases our mind, like you said. And in a way, it solves a lot of issues. That's number one. The not so Jewish answer is I would encourage everyone. I can tell you what it is for me, but I don't have to. But I would encourage everyone to ask themselves the serious question, or two questions. First of all, what is the most productive time of the day? Some people are night owls, as they call them, and for them, night is the most productive time. Some people are morning. What are they called? Whatever they called, morning roosters. I don't know what they call, but the morning is their better time. Some people it's afternoon. Some people it's late morning. Whatever it is, I think you should find the most productive time of the day that is for you. And I think that you should, because it's the most productive time of the day, you should fulfill your purpose during that productive time of the day. If it's writing a book, let it be writing a book. If it's doing good in the world, let it be doing good in the world. If it's whatever it is, fulfill your purpose. Because I think that a lot of these issues come from, because of these distractions, because of these problems, come from the squashing of the self. Not just the body, of course, but the purpose within the self. And when we are not actualizing our purpose, then we feel very frustrated from within, and that creates a lot of issues. So I think we should find the most productive time of the day and do some productive for our purpose in those hours. That's one idea. Another idea is to find maybe some, not those things that are in line with our purpose, but those things that serve as diversions for us, healthy diversions, like playing music, for example, or like, I don't know, going to the gym, doing sports. Find those things and also be consistent about them in order to, like you said, to release our minds. I think if we have those two elements and we insert them in our days consistently, then our lives will, and the schedules, the busy schedules of our lives will align with those, and we'll feel so much better. That's number two. And one last thing, I would also ask the honest question of what causes me the greatest stress that I have control over, of course. If it's my wife, I might not have much control over her. But if it's reading news, if it's the media, then maybe I shouldn't be reading news every day, or maybe I should read it just once a day. If it's maybe using my phone as the first thing I do in the morning to check the emails that I received overnight, or whatever it may be, then maybe I should delay that by an hour. That I have control over. But let's ask ourselves, what causes me anxieties? And let's try to eliminate those habits, those terrible habits from our lives. If it's also not waking up with our phones, maybe going to sleep with the TV on. I think that's terrible. And I know that I once read a research about this, but I think 34% of Americans, if I remember correctly, this is maybe 4 years ago, 34% of Americans go to sleep with the TVs on. It's atrocious if you think about this, because what you're doing is that you're filling your mind with garbage, let's face it, with garbage that's going to trickle in as you're sleeping at night. And then when you wake up in the morning, you wake up in a bad mood and you ask yourself, why am I in a bad mood? Well, of course you're in a bad mood, because the whole night, your mind was still under the impression of the TV, that incessant garbage that you were being fed with. So maybe it's that habit of switching off the TV, switching off those things that cause anxiety an hour before we go to sleep, 2 hours before we go to sleep. So those things that we have control of, let's eliminate. And that's in addition, of course, to studying Torah. That's in addition to finding those productive times and being productive with that purpose. That's in addition to finding those healthy diversions and exercising them on a daily basis. But I think that also will help very much. Then everyone has control over many of the anxieties that we create for ourselves.